Always question what you're told, always question the data that's in front of you, and always think maybe there's a better way to do something. When COVID hit, our main market was the ground handling space, which is basically logistic operations in airports. That was gone in like 2 weeks. And we were sitting there thinking, okay, do we close shop? Do we reduce the headcount and wait it over? What do we do? In the face of despair, you can get disheartened really easily, but perhaps all you need to do is say, let's just do what we need to do, live our lives, get through it. Whatever happens, happens. We always had the vision that Hoopo will become something for, multiple sectors, multiple markets, as an asset intelligence platform that can easily be configured and adapted. The vision is to be the best at what we do, which is creating affordable and efficient and reliable visibility for unpowered assets. Where the world's going, there's going to be a need for viable, affordable, and efficient tracking solution. We help companies make their lives better, their operations more efficient, and their customers more happy.
Before we jump into our next conversation on the Wolf and Bull podcast, I want to take a quick moment to thank each and every one of you for tuning into this episode. All of the team here at Daramore Media prides themselves in the work that they put into each and every one of our episodes. And the best way to possibly help us is to leave a like, a comment, and a subscription. Our main priority is to facilitate honest conversation with captivating individuals that brings each and every one of our listeners and viewers a nugget of advice, wisdom, or insight that they can take away from every one of our episodes. Again, thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy this episode of The Wolf and Bull.
My name is Ty. I am the CEO and co-founder of Hoopo. Hoopo is an asset intelligence company. We're an Israeli-American company. What we do is we help global fleets with plenty of unpowered assets, things like trailers, containers, equipment at the airport, get visibility to it and be able to manage those assets and fleet much better. We are 40 people and growing. We're based, our headquarters in Israel. We have an office in Phoenix, and we're looking to also expand to the Far East sometime this year.
Why does your work and the work of Hoopo Asset Intelligence, why does it matter?
It's a question that, we need to ask ourselves this every day. I'll give you the answer that we believe in, but we think that we should question this every moment that we go by, because I want to start with a quote from one of our customers. He's a VP of operations in one of the biggest leasing companies in the country. And when he started working with us, he said the following thing: you know what? We did not know what we did not know. And the minute that you start creating visibility to your operations, to your bottlenecks, to the exceptions that your business handles, and you start sharing this also with your customers, then you start creating services and values that you couldn't achieve before that. So that's why it matters. We help companies make their lives better, their operations more efficient, and their customers more happy.
That's the bottom line at the end of the day, right?
It's all about the customers. So yeah, that's and good. The experience.
Ty, can you share a story of how you embarked on your entrepreneurial journey and what inspired you to start your own business?
That's a great question, and you know what? I think for this podcast, I'll tell a story that we've never told before about the actual origin of the company.
Awesome.
I served in the Israeli intelligence forces under the Israeli Defense Forces, and I've done lots of intrapreneurship there and new technology and things that we can probably not discuss on this podcast. But as soon as I left there, it was clear to me that what I want to do in life is build products. And I worked in a few startup companies in Israel. And then my dog got sick, and I wanted to track my dog and monitor its health. Unfortunately, every freaking tracker on the market runs out of battery every couple of days. And so I met with one of my today co-founder, and we spoke about that. And we realized that where the world's going, and that was 2016, so quite long ago, where the world's going, there's going to be a need for viable, affordable, and efficient tracking solution. Because it's not just about dogs. It's about everything that you want to know where it's at and how's it doing. I do hope that one day we'll go back to dogs and I can start tracking dogs again. There's this joke in Hoopo, like at the end of the day, it's all an agenda to go back to tracking our dogs. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that what drove us in the beginning. And from there, it was just the challenges, man. It was, you encounter a challenge, someone has a pain point, they cannot do their work properly, and you just embark on this challenge and you want to solve it and then win the game. And I think that's what drives us forward.
That's really interesting. That would, if you asked me, if I had to guess, how it started, I would not have said dogs, but that's really cool.
It's all about that eventually.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Now, how did your upbringing shape your values and influence your approach to business?
I'm the black sheep, and the reason is both my parents are professors and PhDs and extremely smart, and I do have uncles that are businessmen, and I think looking at them, it kind of led me to think maybe academia is not for me.
Yeah.
I ended up doing a master's in cognitive psychology just so they don't take all the inheritance away from me and give it to my sister. But I think that gave me the first drive to try and do something that kind of impacts and changes the world and becomes big. But I will give one great thing to my parents. I think it's critical thinking. Always question what you're told, always question the data that's in front of you, and always think if there's a better way to do something. So I think that my dad used to say that when he told me to cut a cucumber, I would compete with myself on what's the most optimized way to cut a cucumber. And then he thought I'm extremely geeky. My dad is twice my size, ex fighter in the military. He's a serious person nowadays. But yeah, I think that was the things that brought me to where I am today.
That's very cool.
What about you?
Honestly, I mean, I didn't really have a really good background. So both of my parents, neither of them were entrepreneurs. My co-host and also, unironically, my father-in-law, he super entrepreneur. I mean, he's on multiple businesses, is currently in San Francisco right now, working with one of those businesses. And, I think I learned a lot of the entrepreneurial aspects from him. A lot of PMA, positive mental attitude stuff. And in addition to that, he kind of showed me through how he's raised his family, how he's raised my wife, that you can, because he has a similar circumstance to you, his parents' education, his entire family's education, that you can break away from, what your family expects you to do and build something for yourself. So that's kind of what we're doing with Dare More and what we're doing with Wolf and Bull.
He's not in the room, so if you also want to say bad things.
Oh, yeah. Where are you? No, he's probably one of my best friends.
Yeah, no, Chris is amazing.
Yeah, he's a good cat. So we talked about education. How has your education contributed to your skills and perspectives as a business owner?
I think the amount of time I spent on my education might have had a bad impact because it was pretty much a waste of time. Having said that, I do think it's like, when you go to this lecture and it's extremely boring, but then you get one insight from it that might have a great impact on the rest of your day or week or month or life even, right?
Yeah.
I think going to, I ended up doing a direct master's degree, as I said, in cognitive psychology. I think understanding how people think, the biases that we have, the things that lead us to the decisions that we make. Most of my thesis and seminars were on decision making. So I think that really helps me understand why people do what they do. And in many cases, they don't understand what they do or why they do it.
Yeah.
So I think I'm using it wherever I go because you know this 5 whys kind of method. You always ask why and why and why until you get to the sheer truth of why it's happening. So I think that is something that it took me a few years during my education process to get. But at the end of the day, you just learn by doing.
Yeah.
I think when I started, I was 24, now 31. Just life and failing stuff, and then learning from these mistakes. And we keep doing mistakes, but I think that's how I, again, got to where I am today, but I'm still far away from where I want to be. So
Yeah. Fail forward, right? That's interesting. So obviously this next question, I think you covered already, but obviously education to you is probably not a requirement for entrepreneurial success.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Chris and I have had a lot of conversations, the bull, everyone knows his name. We've had a lot of conversations about education and the impact that it kind of plays on society currently. And my wife, as you probably saw, she's pregnant and we're about to have a little girl. And I think that's probably one of the viewpoints that I'm going to instill in her is education is really important as long as, one, you value the education, and two, you don't make it an exact measurement for total success because you can succeed outside of that.
I will say, I'm God forbid, I'm not disapproving anyone who went and grabbed some education. I think if it fits what you want to do in life and you're looking for it, and also I think there's somewhat a level of also enjoying life.
Yeah.
And it's just something you want to go through, and it's an experience. And so experiences are important, whether they are during your education or not.
So what drives and motivates you on a personal level as an entrepreneur, especially during challenging times?
I think there are two things. One is just internal, kind of a competitive method of, I always tell my team, I like being the underdog. We just love being the underdog. We started tracking, there are dozens of other tracking companies out there. And, 2 weeks ago, we announced the second largest deal for container tracking in the history of the entire world.
Late congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I wasn't fishing for it, but keep going. So I think, being the underdog and winning is a main driver for me personally. But I think the second thing, which has become the more important thing, is just seeing the impact that we have. And you give something to a customer we don't call them customers, we call them partners, because we work with them. It's not like, hey, here's the tracker, track your trailer and goodbye, pay us a subscription. No, we have a customer success team. We want to work with them. We want to see how it impacts their life. We want to get feedback, improve the product, change things. This kind of thing, this back and forth is what drives me nowadays. It's just super fun, and it's nice to see that there's an impact to what we do. It's not just, 2 people in the garage anymore. It's 40 people changing the logistic world. Have you had any mentors or role models who influenced your entrepreneurial path, and how have they shaped your approach to business? It's a great question that one of my co-founders, who to me is also one of my mentors, when we started Hupo, he said, if you want to have a successful company, you always need to tell the truth to yourself. And that goes back to, fishing for feedback and trying to think whether we're doing the right thing every day and ask us questions. I think that has been something I kept with me for the past 7 years, and it's impacting every day. I'll also have a mentor who I don't know if he wants me to name his name, so I'll avoid that. But I'll just say is a very successful entrepreneur, now a venture capital investor who lives in Los Angeles area. And sometimes experience matters as long as the person, you believe in the opinions and the view on life that the person has. And when I encountered challenges that I've never encountered before, I had someone to go to and ask, hey, what do I do in this situation? He would never give me an answer of do that and do that. He would just ask the questions that would make me think and get to a final decision. I don't know if he was trying to avoid the responsibility of telling me what to do, but it worked. It worked.
I mean, that's definitely both ways. I mean, it's a good way to avoid it and a good way to bring someone to a solid conclusion.
Back to you, if that's okay. You did mention Chris as a mentor, right? The bull. Do you think your life is like completely different before and after?
100%. Yeah. There's this kind of inside family joke that we've had, as an interesting visual anecdote, over the last, because I've been with Jen 13 years, going on 13 years. Been married for almost 2. Almost 3. Oh man, cut that out.
Get that out right now. You're lucky she's outside. She's not listening.
Yeah, she is. But the interesting joke that we have as a family is that my style, how I present myself, has changed drastically. I used to have long hair when they first met me, and kind of surfer boy because we were in Southern California, and now I only wear gray basically. Gray and kind of the same t-shirt all the time. He has a similar strategy as your mentor. He's very good at seeing through emotional BS. Really good at getting down to the point of things. And also, I think one of the things that impresses me about him is he has a incredible knack for caring about others. I know that sounds kind of cheesy, but it's something that I've kind of looked at and been like, man, I really want to be able to emulate that in my own life, especially with people I work with and people I meet. He's definitely a huge impact on my life. Probably would not, I wouldn't be able to tell you where I'd be if he wasn't there. So now we touched on this a little bit, but I'd like to dive into it. In what ways has your cultural background influenced your business decisions and work ethic? And then as a follow-up, for those who have a similar background, do you have any advice to give them if they're looking to start and grow a company like yours?
I don't know if I'd recommend people to go and raise their kids in Israel unless they're Israeli, especially at this time.
Unfortunately,
And I'm always wearing this, which is bring them home, dog tag for the hostages that are currently in Gaza. Actually, one of our investors' son is celebrating 20 today.
Wow.
And he's 30 meters, 100 feet underground. No one knows what's going on for more than 115 days. It's just insane.
Yeah.
Putting that aside and moving to happier things, I think there is an advantage to our upbringing because there are so many challenges in front of you that you just have to think outside the box. And my parents have this story where they went to a Elton John concert in London, and when they went out of the concert, there was this huge line to the subway there, getting back to the hotel. Do you know what they did? Mm-mm. They took the subway to the other direction, like outside of town. One station, got out, got back in, zero line. They enter
Smart.
in. They see two other couples that did the same. They all spoke Hebrew.
No way.
They were all from Israel.
Oh, wow.
So I'm not saying that Israelis are smarter than anyone else or whatever, but I think there is somewhat to the fact that you have to think outside the box. And actually, there was a poll not recently, not an official one or something, about if the U.S. had offered Israel to join as another state, would we? I think 71% of people said yes immediately.
I would be all for that.
So I think there's somewhat. So also to that, I think the connection that Israelis have with Americans and vice versa. I think that's also very fruitful. I can't take credit for it, but we're enjoying it, and we I feel at home here.
Yeah, it's not to dive too deep into it, but if you had told me things going on today would have been happening 10 years ago, and how people in this country, specifically my age and younger, how can I say this? Some of the positions that they've taken, I probably would have thought it was a really terrible joke, to be honest with you. So yeah, you're in good company here. Were there any specific challenges during your upbringing that provided valuable lessons for your career?
As a child, it's a good question, which I've never really thought deep of. Karen, my girlfriend, when we have children, I think sending them to sport, if doing sports, doing music, doing arts. I think that my parents, I have to thank them every single day for the fact that one, they sent me to do so many things when I was a kid, but on the other hand, they never made me do something that didn't fit what I wanted to do. Including English lessons from the age of 3, which allows me to be here on the podcast today. But so I think that's it. It's collecting, again, the experiences in order to eventually be whatever you'll become, because it's hard to predict where you're going to go.
Jen always talks about how, Chris and Jackie didn't really force her to do things she wasn't interested in doing. And I think that's a really good parenting style, to be honest with you.
It's same as management, I try to avoid, sometimes you have to tell someone to do something because there's a fire to put out, but in many cases, I never try to tell people, hey, do this and do that. I bring them the problem or the desired outcome, and we think together about what we need to do, because when it's something that they connect with and that comes from within, from them, they're much more emotionally attached to the task. And then the performance is 100 times better. So I always try to do that.
Now, that's interesting. Do you think that was more of a nurture aspect from your parents, or do you think that was like a skill that you cultivated as time went on?
I think it's both, a nature versus nurture kind of thing. But I still think, I think it's more nurture. Yeah.
Interesting.
But it's also the positive feedback of seeing that how well it works. I don't know if you read the Sun Tzu Art of War kind of book.
On our shelf
it's
over there.
There on the shelf, great. But there's one thing I love there. It's like the worst leader is someone that you're afraid of, so you do what they tell you, and then you have the one that you admire, and so you want to do what they do, and then but the bottom line is that the best leader is the one that you don't really know that they exist. Because, you end up doing what they wanted you to do, but they don't necessarily tell you to do it. They don't command you. They partner with you and they let you bring it up. And I think that's kind of what I want to be in life.
Yeah, no, that's really good. So another question about that. So I see that from, perspective of working in different companies and meeting different people. I see that as more of a wanting to retain control, like forcing someone to do something, or being willing to give up control. Would you say that's the same for you?
Absolutely. And I think I find it really hard to lose the control. I find it really hard to delegate my responsibilities, and I don't think I'm perfect at it. If you speak to our employees, they will tell you that, you know, there are some things they know that they would need to come to me and ask if that's okay or not. But still, you know, when we were 5 people in the garage, you know everything, you do everything. When you're 13 people, you kind of still maintain control. But when you're 40 people or 100 people, you have to find it in you to delegate and trust and let other people lead. And, you know, that's life.
Was there a pivotal moment during the growth of the business where you felt personally, I need to release and relinquish some control?
Yeah. I bought the Oura Ring because I don't sleep much and it monitors my sleep. Besides telling me that I don't sleep, it doesn't help much. But when I went days by days without sleep because there were so many tasks to do, and I understood that there, you know, you cannot move forward like this, and you have again to be more trustworthy. You have to choose the right people, and then that's the only way to grow. Always, I think. Also remember, I know again cheesiness, but you're not always right. You may think you're always right, but you're not. So you have to remind that to yourself and let other people do some stuff. And maybe you'll see that you were wrong and they had a better idea.
We touched on this briefly, but how would you describe your leadership style? And how do you ensure it aligns with the culture and goals of Hoopo?
It's a daily struggle between wanting to be a chaos manager, which is basically let's improvise, let's move faster than everyone else, let's tackle tasks one after another, versus the understanding that as you grow, you need to be more process oriented. So I will not give you an answer as to my leadership model because I think it changes between the different aspects of the company. Somewhere I wear the hat of being the one that, you know, puts in the processes and demands everyone to do something in a certain way or a certain method so things don't fall, you know, between chairs. But on the other hand, I try to I never micromanage. I would never do that. But talk to me in 2 years and I'll let you know.
Yeah, right. Well, it seems like you're saying, you know your audience, basically. You know, you don't treat every single individual employee the same exact way.
That's always true. I mean, every person is a different person. I also think that for specific people, there are different tasks that need to be managed differently.
How would you recommend for people looking to get into business or people who are currently business owners, how would you recommend they approach that type of thinking with their employees?
One thing I'm doing right now, for example, is there are many people at Hoopo that are now reading the same book. The reason we're doing that is because there are some things that we want to happen in a certain way. And I think passing it through an objective narrative, someone else who has a very good story to tell, allows me to move people toward a similar mindset without really, you know, doing anything about it. But I'm saying it here because I'm also saying the same to them. They know why we're giving them the book and why we're trying to take this in a good way. Because at the end of the day, and I think I don't remember the name. I think it was the Clippers coach who came in on the first day to the dressing room and said, you know, I'm a person. I'm gonna make mistakes. Everyone will make mistakes. Tell me when I'm mistaken and I'll try and fix it. But every decision I make is because I think of the benefit of the company. And in most cases, it aligns with your personal benefit. So I think that's how I try to navigate the ship with all the employees toward the sanctuary or a successful treasure island. Yeah, depending, you can choose your analogy.
I like that. The treasure island's good. I like that.
This episode is brought to you by Americano Ammunition Coffee, serving true American patriots the means to defend their freedom, one caffeinated caliber at a time. Make sure to visit their website, ammoandcoffee.com, and grab yourself a bag of their amazing coffee beans. Or, if you happen to be in the Arizona area, visit their shop in Queen Creek. Make sure to mention the Wolf and Bull, and you'll get 25% off your order. Oh!
Go to ammoandcoffee.com, or I'll attack you. I'm Murphy.
Now, how do you personally approach and adapt to change, both in the market and within your organization?
There's no, can you say in English, holy cows?
Yeah.
Okay, so there no holy cows at Hoopo. Yeah. We tell the employee on the first day of work, there's hierarchy to decision making because someone has to make a decision at the end of the day, but there's no hierarchy to voicing opinions. And there's no departments. If you're a product manager, but you think that sales could improve doing A and B, go and tell them that it's expected of you. So I think listening to everyone and seeing lots of viewpoints allows us to really adapt to change quickly and see how the market goes. And I think if you speak to our customers or partners, you will learn that we're probably the fast movers when it comes to challenges and new features and things that need to be resolved.
A side question to that: how do you say during meetings? How do you mitigate? They have a different term, but I guess it's the only one I can utilize. How do you mitigate groupthink?
The main challenge, I think, with groupthink is that if you are louder, more opinionated, you may get heard more than others. I try when I'm in the room, but I'm not always in the room. But I know others who would do the same. We try methodically to make sure that everyone gets addressed, and that if someone's quiet for a longer time than others, then we need to ask them what they think. It's democracy is a good thing. Sometimes it may slow things down.
Yeah.
So again, someone needs to make a decision at the end of the day, and then I think that to mitigate the group thinking from a completely different perspective, we're saying it's okay to make a decision and fail as long as we do it quickly, because then we can iterate, revert, change the path. But it's a good question. What do you hear from others about groupthink?
Well, I think the reason I ask is because back to my experience in the corporate world, a lot of the CEO or the president or an upper management C-level exec would pitch an idea, and a lot of the employees would parrot the idea back. And I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with that. I think that sometimes there are wonderful ideas from upper level management. But at the same time, I found that if someone parrots their idea first, normally the employees will vocalize it back to them. And in the environment that I was in, there wasn't a huge amount of mitigation, or maybe restraint would probably be a better term, on behalf of upper level management to try and reel it back a little bit to get an open opinion. Even though, and this might be my cynicism coming through, or pessimism. Even though they would allow everyone to talk, there was very much you kind of knew when the group shifted into doing what they asked, if that makes sense.
It does.
And it's really, I haven't experienced such many circumstances or situations personally as a former employee, or even speaking with other business owners, where there is a conscious understanding, as you've kind of explained, that they implement themselves. And I always think that personally, when it comes to businesses, if there's not that understanding, you could just be going in circles, because sometimes people make a decision that's a really good one, and then they realize that's a good one, and then they double down on the other decisions when it might not be the best,
It's a really good thinking point that I've never looked at from like the outside perspective. But I don't know if the reason for what I'm about to say is because we're leading by example, or because these are the kind of people that we brought in. But we're only 40 people. We have so many things that we want to accomplish, and there are only 24 hours in every day if you don't sleep. And therefore, I think it pushes people and managers at our company to expect the employees to not come with a challenge or something that needs to be done. They need to come with a proactive concept and opinion of what needs to be done. And I think that creates more ability for everyone to express and suggest sort of ideas.
It's more of a collaborative approach.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah. Kind of final personal question. How do you balance professional commitments and personal life as an entrepreneur?
You choose a partner who's as busy as you are.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, but I also think like work and relationship, it's about transparency. You may have months where someone needs more attention, and you have to find the way to balance it. I would want to go back to work out more. I can't say I'm balancing it good. I mean, Hoopo is my life 99% of the time, but I think it's okay, to also bring work to life and life to work, because I think that frees you up from thinking, when am I done? When am I going to do other stuff? It's all together, and you need to enjoy the journey. Otherwise, we can all go home and do something else.
Yeah, our previous client talked about how you can't really, as a business owner, you can't entirely separate. It's just not feasible. But it is interesting to get your perspective on it, and that was a good quote.
You need to be open to feedback even in a relationship. So, and I think that helps.
How long have you and your girlfriend been together?
We've been together. You're putting me on the spot there. Now we really are not going to let her listen in. I think it's been almost 5 years almost.
Wow. How'd you guys meet?
Funny story. I was living in Tel Aviv, which is, I think, the equivalent of like New York or something, with 2 other roommates, friends who I grew up with, and one of them left. We're looking for another person to join, and she was like on the top of our list. We didn't know her from before. She moved in, which is something I recommend to everyone, because for 6 months we've been living together as flatmates, roommates. She got to do due diligence on me. I did due diligence on her. We figured that we could live together. We started as friends. I had a girlfriend. She had a boyfriend. And we just, became really, really good friends. And after 6 months, we just said, the passion came out of the blue. And then rest is history. 2 months later, we moved in, and now it's really ancient history.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah,
I don't think I know how you guys met, though.
Well,
did you already tell it on the podcast? We don't want to bore anyone.
No, we can bring it up again. So I met Jen while I was in college, and it's probably the silliest, cheesiest story ever, but it was a political science class. Mm-hmm. And when I was going to Cal State San Marcos, I wanted to major in political science, and then I realized I probably want to keep my soul. So maybe not that. But I still love the idea and the topic of politics. I love discussing it with individuals. It doesn't matter what the side they're on. I think it's good to be in the middle and take ideas from either side, as long as they're reasonable and logical ideas. With that being said, she sat down next to me. Well, actually, let me rewind. I saw her, and I was with one of my friends at the time. I think his name was like Jeff or something like that. Don't talk to him anymore. It's been a long time. But I saw her and I said, that's a really, really attractive woman. I'm going to get her number. And he looked at me and said, no, you're not. And so that was the end of that class. The next class happened. She's not there. And I said, oh, well, she's not there. I guess that ship sailed. Long story short, 2 weeks later, she comes back. I'm in the front row listening to our political science teacher talk, who happened to also be a narcoleptic, which was funny. He would come to class wearing sandals and socks, and he'd pace back and forth in front of the class. And I leaned over her and I said, it's like 96 degrees outside, and she has black pants on. And I couldn't think of anything other to say than, are you hot in those pants? And her exact phrase back to me was, I don't know, am I? So it's cheesy. It's very cheesy. But that's how we met. I followed
basically
her.
You stalked her for 2 weeks.
Oh, dude,
and then you said the most horrible things, and she was kind enough to still be polite to you.
100%.
And then fell for you for some unapparent reason.
Exactly, right? Well, what's funny is I ended up leaving the classroom and following her out of class, and I needed to have like a reason to get her to stay around, because she was talking with me, but it was obvious she had to get to her next class. And one of my good friends from high school, who I still know today, Jordan, who's been on the podcast, he showed up, and I said, hey, Jordan, I need to introduce Jen to you. And I mean, I was nervous and awkward and young and dumb, but yeah, that's how we met. And I mean, 13 years later, we're 21 weeks pregnant, and yeah. Got a dog and a house. No
churn, nice retention. You got the reference from the friend,
right?
Yeah,
that's
good job.
That's
you
the
see,
advice.
You can separate life and work. But yeah, exactly. You guys are very, very cool.
Thank you. Same to yourself. I'd love to meet your girlfriend one day.
Yeah, we'll bring her here next time.
Definitely. So now let's jump into some questions about Hoopo. Now, per your website, and this is a quote, businesses can enjoy improved asset visibility, enhanced operational efficiency, reduced downtime, optimized resource allocation, and increased productivity. Our solution helps businesses make data-driven decisions, streamline processes, and reduce costs. How does Hoopo stand out in a market with numerous competitors offering a similar solution?
The one word we starting to hate is visibility. Everyone says it, but everyone says they're doing it. Everyone says you should do it, but no one really knows how it's done. And what we try to do is take a very bottoms-up pragmatic approach. We create the tracking, the visibility, the actual visibility per se. What's going on? What's the status of your assets? Where are they? The reason we stand out compared to our competitors is because most of our investment has been into technology, and we have a very unique location tech that basically means that every single tracker is way, way more power efficient. So it lasts for a much longer time. It has multiple location and communication technologies. So it works indoors, outdoors, in very challenging, harsh environments, in maritime, transportation, intermodal, you name it. And it's therefore also much more cost affordable. We call it the 3 C's: consumption, coverage, and cost. We're better on all those 3. So that's why we get the business. But that's only the start. What happens there, you create the visibility and it's reliable. So you can start, as the quote said, you can start making data-driven decisions, because we have a customer, won't name names, here in the US, manages operations in multiple airports across the country. The first year, they used Hoopo, and that was an ROI that we didn't think of even. They realized how many assets are sitting idle, not doing anything, and it was the first year in the past 2 decades that they did not invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in buying new equipment for the following year, because people ask for, for the same budget, for more equipment, etc. There's no need for it. Yeah. So that's what data-driven decision allows you to do. Just make smarter, more accurate decisions. And it happens on a day-to-day operations, and it happens on a more macro level, big data, resource allocation, procurement, et cetera, et cetera.
Now, in follow-up, what specific methods, if any, do you employ to analyze and stay ahead of your competition?
We have people, doing what everyone else is doing, market researches, going to conferences like the one we're meeting in Vegas next week.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it will be absolutely fun. Just, looking at what the market trends are. However, our personal belief is there is so much noise there, and people are sometimes talking about things that will take, a decade to implement. What we like doing is sitting with the customers, understanding the pain points, not the solutions. Henry Ford said, if I were to ask people what they wanted at the time, they would say, give me faster horses. They wouldn't say, build a car with 4 wheels and a wheel. So we're trying to listen into the pain points, and then we're going back to the office and we're thinking, okay, what has the biggest impact? What has the biggest market opportunity? And how do we prioritize this over the next year or so?
Yeah, just imagine Henry Ford made faster horses, and then we have 8-lane highways with a bunch of fast horses on them.
Yeah.
Now, what's your strategy for ensuring the long-term sustainability of your business amidst technological advancements and shifting consumer preferences?
All big questions. I think that, and we kind of said it, and I know it still sounds cheesy, but I mean it like 100%. It's okay if you have a technological advantage, and it's okay if you keep ahead of the differentiation when it comes to whether it's pricing or, again, features and technology, etc. At the end of the day, it's building very, very good rapport with the customers, and it's trying to predict what kind of new product offerings you could give them to either solve a huge pain point that they have or will have, or to improve what they try to achieve, customer experience, for example. And one feature that, for example, we did not yet release, but we know that it will be there, so it's already up and running with some of our beta customers, is the ability to automatically share the status of a shipment cargo asset with their customers. So think like Amazon or DHL, you get the tracking link. If you lease a chassis, or if you order a container from a steam shipping line, you get the location of it. If the door's being opened, if there was a shock to it, you can start promising the quality to your customers. And I think that's kind of, at least in the foreseeable future, that's how we're going to change the world.
Big question. How do you think artificial intelligence is going to impact, one, the industry as a whole, so logistics or the industries you work within, and two, your product?
Yeah, so hopefully you'll get some money for the sponsorship we'll give Manifest now. But on the recent podcast with Manifest, which is, again, the conference we're heading to next week, we spoke about a similar thing, and I really liked something that was said there, and it goes back to data. I mean, the decisions we make are only as good as the data that we have. Now, AI may have the chance to, transform logistics and, of course, many other things in the world. But there are 2 big ifs that need to be solved first. One, how do you make sure the data that the AI is relying on is reliable, unbiased, and clean also? Yeah. And the other thing is how how do you make AI conscious enough to the critical thinking that we discussed at the beginning of this podcast, meaning that, okay, it has enough data to make a certain decision, but now it's shipping a container from point A to point Z. Does it know that on social media in a country in the Far East, there's starting to be communications about a protest in a port where the ship's going to get to in 2 weeks, and now it needs to consider that as well, and what kind of weight does it give that? Yes, maybe it can do it better than humans, but it's very hard to predict, especially with AI that teaches itself, like AGI, what kind of additional data sources will it include. Some people will say that even if it makes mistakes or doesn't look at all the data sets, it would still be better than us people. So it's really hard. We're opening our eyes to it. Lots of people say they do AI, but it's basically, just lots of if-else's or NLP kind of thing. But
interesting side note question. Are you a pro artificial intelligence individual, or are you a critical artificial intelligence individual?
No, I'm pro every technological advancement. I think, of course, many things have caused lots of damage throughout the history of the world. Nuclear fusion killed a lot of people, but if you really look at the amount of people that it killed versus the amount of people that it might save, including the entire world, because we don't need fossil fuel, maybe.
Yeah.
So, it's a price that we have to pay, and our lives are not really long as individuals, but in the history of the world, I think AI is going to take us to good places.
I'd like to hope so. I'm a little apprehensive about it. I think that the reason I'm apprehensive about it is because I think there's a lot of, I don't want to say there's definitely maybe not a cognitive dissonance, but there's a lot of over optimism. And when I tend to see that from especially large industries that have unfortunately over the last few years been proven to be pretty biased, I tend to get a little critical of it. I think it's amazing technology. I mean, but you look at a company like Google and, them doing some interesting search manipulation and all that stuff. It's kind of like,
of course, and they've been doing this before AI, but and again, not necessarily just one name Google, but companies in general are doing that. And it gives them maybe an unfair advantage, but maybe someone will come in a year or so and build AI that detects when these companies do it, and you were never able to detect that, and maybe now you'll have a flag near a post on Facebook that says this is fake. Someone manipulated. In cybersecurity, for example, the attackers are always more advanced than the defenders, because it's sometimes hard to defend from something you don't know what it is, right?
Yeah.
I think this is kind of what we're starting to experience with AI. It will be interesting to see where it goes. I'm with you on the fact that I'm not so optimistic that it's gonna be the extremely revolutionary, robotic humans tomorrow. I don't think we're there. But it's definitely something that everyone's looking into for a good reason.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely gonna be positive outcomes. I'm not a doom. I don't like being a doomsayer. But at the same time, it's like you look at something like Neuralink, for example, and it's like, whoa, that is really incredible.
Yeah, and also humanity. For sure. Humanity has, I don't know why it's in us, but of course it is. We're all somewhat, doomsayers.
A little bit.
Yeah. We want to know why, it's part of our lives, and we have to. We love thinking about things, in
what could possibly go wrong,
catastrophic manner. But to some extent, it also saves us sometimes from getting there, because some people do take it that way.
Well, on that note of doomsaying, with the events of the past 4 years, how is your business prepared to navigate and thrive in an unpredictable global economic landscape?
When COVID hit, for example, our main market was the ground handling space, which is basically logistic operations in airports. That was gone in like 2 weeks. And we were sitting there thinking, okay, do we close shop? Do we reduce the headcount and wait it over? What do we do? And we always had the vision that Hoopo will become something for, multiple sectors, multiple markets, as an asset intelligence platform that can easily be configured and adapted to various use cases and markets. We sat down with a team. We actually also reduced the salaries for the entire company for 3 months. And we told people, if you agree, it's okay if you don't agree, and we'll give you all the benefits that you deserve. But if you agree and stay, if we go past this, we'll give you 1.5 times what you gave up on in shares or cash, your choice.
Wow.
They all sticked. No one left.
No one left. That's a great
because
deal.
there was a concern, and we're completely focused on the airport space. And what we said is, okay, you know what? Let's take the leap and let's move to the next market that we're only thinking of going there in 6 to 9 months. That was the chassis leasing market, which is the second largest market we have now, alongside the container tracking market. So I think it's being very open with the team, understanding the shit happens, and just understanding that whatever happens, but you have to try and cope with it as soon as possible with full motivation. And in hindsight, COVID changed our lives for the better. People understand the challenge of what happens when you don't have visibility and unpredictable stuff happens. Completely transformed the market. And I think it's funny to say, but without COVID, we wouldn't be where we are now. And we're very happy that we have had to go through the struggles.
The interesting thing about COVID is, because we were in California at the time, everything shut down. Everything was like a ghost town. I mean, and, I wouldn't consider Jen and myself too far left, too far right, but us going out and about, we'd get looks, go out and live life normally. People would be like, why are you out and about? Yeah, the companies and the people who actually moved during that period and didn't just cease everything, I think are the people that came through the best, honestly.
I agree. We saw our competitors, break down, get sold, stop business. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just astonishing. I mean, that's on a side note, just astonishing, that whole event.
So sometimes in the face of, again, cheesiness 4th time in a row, right? We're all cheesy on this episode. I think in the face of despair, you can get disheartened really, really easily, but perhaps all you need to do is say, let's just do what we need to do, live our lives, get through it. And again, whatever happens. I think I can give you 100 decisions where we could have gone left or right. And had we gone the other way, I think our situation would have been horrible. Well, we didn't know. So you also need luck. But here's another cliche for you. The harder you practice, the luckier you get.
That's good.
It's a matter of opportunities. And if you just try, then eventually something would catch on.
Yeah. And action kills fear, doesn't it? Another one is comparison is the thief of joy.
True.
How do you make critical decisions for your business, especially when faced with, for example, COVID, complex and ambiguous situations? You
need to collect as many opinions as you can, as fast as you can. We've discussed this. But then you just have to make a decision. Yes, if you're making a decision that is tremendously important for the business and has a huge financial impact because you're taking this huge debt loan with a big interest rate, you have to look at the numbers and make sure that you make an important, the right call.
Yeah.
But most decisions that we make throughout the day are not life and death decisions. And if we stall and wait until we have all the data, we wouldn't move forward. So we just know at Hoopo, we make decisions fast, we run with them, but we continue to monitor if they're wrong or not. And there's always time to take the other path.
In the face of ethical dilemmas, how do you maintain a strong ethical foundation for your business, and what processes are in place to address such challenges?
This is one of the most important questions that we need to address always in a company, no matter which company, Hoopo or other, and make it very, very clear to the employees that in the face of an ethical dilemma, we always take the ethical approach. If there's a bug on the system or something's not working for the customer, we don't need to make up excuses. I mean, it's not going to be any help. We need to tell them the truth, resolve it fast. And I believe that we have 2 of our largest customers. When we started working with them, it was a disaster. Not because our products didn't work, but because maybe the expectation management wasn't good enough, and maybe they installed the trackers in a location that they shouldn't have, and there were all these issues. But we were transparent, we were fast, we fixed it. The amount of respect that we now have from them, and the trust that no matter what happens, we will be there to support them. I think in the long run, that wins you more business than it loses. And therefore, we make it clear to the employees, it's not just because we're saying, okay, make the ethical decision. It's because it's the right decision for the business in the long term.
What is your long-term vision for Hoopo? And how do you ensure that day-to-day operations align with the broader strategic goals that you've set?
It's funny because most companies, they build a vision and then after 2 years, they change it. We just say that we have 2 potential paths on which we'll embark. And this is either becoming the platform for asset intelligence or becoming the go-to house for converting assets into smart assets. I think those visions align because you can do both of them. But the world grows. You have the P44s, the Fourkites, other kinds of companies that we're also open to collaborate with, and we actually do that. And so the vision is to be the best at what we do, which is creating affordable and efficient and reliable visibility for unpowered assets. And this simple sentence just clarifies to everyone what they need to do. Of course, we have we have our core values and everything, but going back to your and mine cynicism and sarcasm, it's nice to have on the wall, a few words that mean something.
Follow the dream.
Exactly. Have a growth. Oh, someone's going to fire me for that, but have a growth mindset. Like, what does it mean? And we have it. We have it on the wall. We have it on the wall because sometimes you do need to be reminded, what's important when you face a dilemma. So it's less about, the vision, let's be the biggest in what we do in the world. It's more about make the right choices, be the right person, and eventually we'll get there or we'll get somewhere, but it will be good.
Well, those are attainable too. I mean, like the growth mindset, I've always wondered, what do you mean? Like in every facet? Like, am I continually growing? Like obviously growth for the sake of growth isn't necessarily growth. So that's interesting. That's very good. Now, Ty, thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate it.
Same.
What would be the best way for our audience to support you and your company, Hoopo Asset Intelligence?
Well, first off, if you want to improve your operations and you own unpowered assets, you just go to Hoopo, HOOPO.tech. By the way, Hoopo is a type of a bird, word in English. It's the national bird of Israel, one hell of a navigator. And also, Hoopo in Hebrew means it's here. Wow. You see it looking the bird up.
I am looking at the bird. That's a cool looking bird.
It's a cool looking bird. It's a Eurasian bird. Very, very cool. Look it up, audience.
It's very cool.
And so if you need help, we're here to help you. But if you want to partner, if you want to ask us questions, if you need help from us, there's phone number, email addresses on the website. Just reach out, connect to me over LinkedIn. The one thing I like the most about the tech industry, and I think in the restaurant industry, it's somewhat similar in other industries too, is that everyone really wants to help other people without necessarily getting something in return besides karma. So whatever we can do for you, just reach out.